Chapter 1. Everyone in the Supply and Marketing Cooperative knows that Director Kim's favorite person is the young widow, and his favorite thing is raising the widow's child. As his fiancée, I can only respect and bless them. Then I picked up the university admission letter and turned away. The handsome uncle I haven't seen in 10 years. This time I must wait for me. When I received the admission letter, I laughed louder than anyone. Even my foster mother, who has never liked me, couldn't help but speak up. You have a good job at the Supply and Marketing Cooperative. Why suddenly go to university? Vincent Kim can wait for you? I stopped laughing and, for the first time, stood up straight to look at her. Didn't you say that I am not worthy of marrying into the Kim family? I've figured it out now, and I will never cling to him again. In fact, it's not just her. Everyone thinks I'm not worthy of Vincent. Vincent is the deputy director of the Supply and Marketing Cooperative. Well-liked, good-looking, and from a good family. If it weren't for Kim uncle adopting me as a child bride, I would have no right to stand by his side. So in my previous life, I loved him wholeheartedly. I was willing to give up the opportunity to attend university and work as an ordinary worker at the Supply and Marketing Cooperative just to be by his side. But what happened? Right under my nose. He went off with Veronica to live happily ever after. I was hospitalized due to a car accident, with 2 broken ribs, and he accused me of abusing medical resources. When Veronica caught a cold, he went around asking for a special care ward and even forced me, who had just been discharged, to cover more than 10 night shifts for her. The company was unaware and nominated me as a model worker, dragging my sick body to receive the award. I found out that the model worker title had long been replaced by Veronica. I was so angry that I fell seriously ill and remained childless for life, while he happily raised children with Veronica for half his life. Later Veronica's son got married. He directly sat in the main seat and accepted the daughter-in-law's tea, and even took all my savings as a bride price. Her son was deeply grateful. Uncle Kim never had children of his own to raise me. From now on, he is my real father. I sat below the stage, ashen-faced, realizing it wasn't my health-preventing pregnancy, but that this person never intended to have children with me. Amidst the sarcasm and ridicule, I was literally angered to death. Living life over again. I only regret not being able to leave here immediately, but with half a month until the start of school, according to the rules, I still have to continue working. With a complex mood, I stepped into the Supply and Marketing Cooperative and saw Veronica's hand resting on Vincent's shoulder, carefully tidying his clothes. For a moment, I was a bit dazed. After all, in the previous life, at the end, everyone was already gray-haired. Vincent looked up and saw me, immediately frowning. What nonsense are you thinking again? Veronica and I have a clean colleague relationship. Don't think of me with such dirty thoughts. Veronica stood behind him, her eyes challenging. Yes, Vincent and I have known each other for so long. If anything were to happen, it would have happened long ago. It wouldn't be your turn. I tugged at the corners of my mouth, never realizing before how low her skills were. I'm off to work first. Thanks Veronica for taking care of my fiancé. Her smile immediately became stiff. Vincent stood in front, shouting in a low voice, "What nonsense are you talking about? Who is your fiancé?" I looked at the handsome man in front of me, unable to suppress the bitterness in my heart. Sorry, I forgot that this engagement was Uncle Kim's idea, and you never agreed to it. Since that's the case, why not clear things up today? I don't want to marry you, and from now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Veronica beside me was obviously a bit smug. Are you serious? You can't go back on your word. Vincent's face turned even more unpleasant. Can't you be sensible? How can you joke about something as serious as marriage? I was a bit puzzled. Who's joking? Weren't you the one who said you wouldn't be my fiancé? He waved his hand impatiently. All right, get to work. All you do is daydream all day. This is so baffling. At lunchtime, I suddenly couldn't find my lunchbox. After searching for a long time, I finally found it in the trash can, holding the now cold lunchbox. I fell silent. According to the memories of my past life, the lunchbox is about to accidentally slip to the ground, and when I go to pick it up, I will accidentally have it stepped on by her. Sure enough, the sound of high heels came from behind. Chapter 2. Before Veronica could speak, I turned around and threw the lunchbox at her face. That's for throwing away my lunchbox. That's for wasting food. Taking advantage of the fact that no one around had reacted, I punched and kicked, venting my anger fiercely. Veronica looked shocked, her hair disheveled. Anna, are you crazy? I threw the lunchbox into the trash can with a righteous expression and said, when eating a meal, one should think of how hard it is to come by. When wearing clothes, always remember the difficulty of obtaining them. Veronica, although our lives are better now, we must not forget the hardships we faced to get here. There was an immediate silence around, and everyone's eyes fell on Veronica. What happened? Hearing Vincent's voice, the crowd automatically parted to make way. Veronica immediately burst into tears. Director Kim, Anna Kim hit me. You must stand up for me. He frowned and was about to speak when he saw the lunchbox in the trash can. Why throw it away? I was stunned for a moment, then belatedly remembered that this was originally his lunchbox, which he later gave to me. It broke. Can't be used anymore. He suddenly got angry. You insisted you liked this lunchbox and took it from me, and now you just throw it away. Anna, you always have this childish temper. I was a bit speechless and picked up the lunchbox, stuffing it into his arms. Then here it is back to you. You can continue using it. As I turned around, I heard the sound of something being thrown into the trash can. He said coldly, I don't care for someone else's unwanted trash. For some reason, I felt a bit upset inside. When I was first adopted, I was only 8 years old. The kids in the yard often bullied me, and once they went too far and pushed me into the river. The winter water was icy and piercing. I walked back soaking wet, shivering all over from the cold. The moment I saw Vincent, I couldn't help but burst into tears. He didn't say anything, just let me lie on his back. The teenage boy was thin and clean, with the scent of laundry detergent on him. He took his own lunchbox to get some hot soup, then left alone. Later, I found out that he talked to each of those kids, threatening them not to bully me again. On my birthday, he asked me what my wish was. I said I wanted that lunchbox. I used it for 10 years. In fact, it was already very worn out and old, but I just couldn't bear to throw it away. As it turns out, obsession is utterly useless. The worn-out lunchbox, like the person who gave up, is forever stuck in the past. Unconsciously, I walked to the entrance of the Supply and Marketing Cooperative, and suddenly a loud noise came to my ears. Then, wailing and crying sounds merged into one. The blood in my whole body froze in an instant. At this time in the previous life, the sign at the entrance inexplicably fell down, just hitting a child's head. Veronica seized the initiative, accusing me of negligence at work and causing harm to human life, forcing me to kneel and apologize. Of course, I didn't admit it. Vincent pressed my head to the ground, saying it was for my own good afterward. The Supply and Marketing Cooperative quickly dismissed me to distance themselves. Since then, I became a housewife, and the distance between Vincent and me grew wider. If I could do it all over again, I would definitely find out what happened. Veronica quickly rushed over, saw me beside the child, and immediately said, Anna, how could you cause such a tragedy? How could you be so heartless to such a small child? Two furious gazes immediately turned towards me. You murderer, give my son his life back. Veronica gripped my hand tightly, a flicker in her eyes. Anna, kneel down and apologize to the elder brother and sister first. Whether they forgive you or not, at least your attitude should be sincere. Chapter 3. In those brief seconds, some previously overlooked details suddenly came together. Veronica, shouldn't you be the one to apologize? I glanced at the solid wood signboard that still smelled of paint. You were in charge of the signboard replacement this time, and now there's such a major safety incident. Isn't it a failure in your work? Her face visibly turned flustered. What nonsense. Clearly you are the supervisor, so you should be the one responsible. Director Kim. She is falsely accusing me. I let out a cold laugh. It's true that I'm the supervisor, But everyone look at the mortise and tenon structure of this signboard. It's obvious that corners were cut during material preparation to save money. Veronica, why be so careless with public property? Could it be that you are embezzling? The crowd immediately started to gossip, and the brothers and sisters who were originally glaring at me also changed their target, their tone becoming increasingly aggressive. So it was you. Come with me to the police station. Seeing Veronica being grabbed, Vincent immediately pulled the man away. What are you doing? The matter hasn't been clarified yet. Who dares to act rashly? He was tall and held a position, looking quite authoritative, and those people were indeed intimidated. This matter is very complicated. Once the agency has investigated, they will naturally give you an explanation. The most important thing now is to quickly take the child to the hospital. Anna, accompany them and advance the money first. I couldn't help but sneer. In the previous life, they pushed the blame without distinguishing right from wrong, and no one ever investigated the so-called truth. But when things started to weigh on Veronica, she began to investigate the truth. Whoever caused the trouble should deal with it themselves. I'm busy. The company policy requires a 1-month notice for resignation, and I'm already late. Seeing me heading towards the director's office, Vincent immediately grabbed my hand tightly. I just said, the matter hasn't been clarified yet, and you're in such a hurry to report to the director? We've been colleagues for many years. How can you be so cruel and selfish? I was stunned for a moment, and it took me a while to react. It's not. Veronica started to sob softly on the side. Miss Kim has always disliked me, and now she's making a fuss over the slightest thing, trying to push me to the brink. Pity my 3-year-old son. Vincent's face grew even darker. Anna, if you dare tell the director about this today, our relationship is completely over. I stared intently at the man in front of me. My wrist was painfully pinched, and my eyes began to redden. Fine. I won't say anything. Director Kim, can you let go now? This time, however, it was his turn to be somewhat stunned. The director was also very happy when he learned that I got into college. Matters of the heart cannot be forced. It's good if you can come to terms with it. When you go to university, look forward and don't dwell on past people and events. Little Kim, you are still very young. I nodded. Thank you, director. But please keep this matter confidential for now. He gave me a meaningful look. All right, don't worry. After leaving the director's office, I went to my own office to pack some things. I didn't plan to take the magazines and newspapers, so I casually distributed them to a few colleagues. The water cup and seat cushion can't be given away, so I'll just throw them out on the last day. Those newspapers and magazines were the ones you asked me to buy from the provincial city. Why are you giving them all away? For some reason, Vincent kept following me. I didn't look at him and continued packing my things. I don't like it anymore. After a while, he added, today is Mom's birthday. I'm waiting for you to come back and have dinner together. I found a pen deep in the bookshelf. It's a very old brand. Okay, I'll just use it as a birthday gift. Vincent's brow furrowed slightly. This was given to you by my dad before he passed away. Before he could finish, Veronica's figure flashed in from the doorway. Chapter 4. She smiled warmly. I heard today is Auntie's birthday. I prepared a little gift and wondered if I might have the chance to visit her. Vincent's gaze was still on the pen, his voice very cold. The sign issue hasn't been resolved yet, so don't go out much during this time. Besides, today is our family banquet. Why are you going? I sneered in my heart. This guy isn't completely clueless. Veronica rarely got frustrated and glared at me angrily. Since Anna doesn't want me to go, then forget it. Me? There were many people at Kim's place today, and my foster mother surprisingly didn't give me a hard time, even allowing Vincent to pull me to sit beside her. Some well-meaning but oblivious relatives praised me. Anna has become more and more beautiful. When can we attend Vincent's wedding? The foster mother gave that person a sidelong glance. No rush. Anna is still young. Vincent suddenly stood up. Since today is a good day and all the uncles and aunts are here, let's settle the marriage between me and Anna. The chopsticks in my hand fell to the ground. The foster mother's reaction was even more intense. She almost flipped the table. I don't agree. Vincent was somewhat puzzled. Why? The foster mother opened her mouth but said nothing. Today, there are too many people, so the usual insults like calling me disgraceful or a little wretch couldn't be said. But aside from these insults, she really couldn't find any fault with me. As for Vincent, this guy was busy distancing himself in the morning. Yet in the evening, he proactively mentioned engagement. I don't know what he's thinking. I cleared my throat. The almanac says today is suitable for gatherings, but not for weddings or funerals. The foster mother immediately nodded. Yes, Anna reads a lot. Listen to her. Vincent's furrowed brow gradually relaxed. All right. Then find a good day later. I'll go to the director tomorrow to apply. The meal was tasteless. Several relatives came from out of town and will stay overnight, so they chatted with the foster mother in the living room. I found an excuse to retreat to the room, and Vincent followed right behind. In the small bedroom, the sound of breathing was clearly audible. Are you still mad at Veronica? It's not easy for her as a single mother. Sometimes she's a bit competitive. But there's no need to argue with her. Just let it go. I sat by the bed without speaking or looking at him. After a while, the spot next to me sank slightly. People always like to joke about marriage. I was a bit cold to you at the office because I didn't want them to make fun of you. He was very close to me, his breath brushing against my ear, slightly tickling, and I felt a bit distracted. But you're very close to Veronica. Aren't you afraid people will make fun of your relationship? He chuckled softly. You're indeed angry because of Veronica. She's a widow, and I'm helping her out of camaraderie. We're innocent, so there's nothing to fear. I turned around, my forehead inadvertently brushing against his chin. There was something subtle flickering in his eyes. This kind of tenderness I had longed for countless times, and it had been destroyed by him countless times. As his thin lips gradually descended, I gently spoke. Let's call off the engagement. The ambiguity came to an abrupt halt. He was instantly full of anger. Anna, do you have to be so unreasonable? Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Vincent, there's a call for you from a girl named Veronica. Vincent answered the phone, his voice immediately becoming gentle. Is the child having a fever? Don't worry, I'll be right there. The adoptive mother's gaze was sarcastic with a hint of a smile, and the surrounding relatives exchanged glances. I'm afraid that after tonight, all the friends and relatives will think Vincent is too timing. Even if I leave in the future, it will be said that I was ousted by a mistress, driven out of the Kim family, unable to resist. I tugged at Vincent's shirt, my voice lowered. With so many people watching, can you give me some dignity and go later? He let out a cold laugh. Veronica is right. You have no parents yourself, so you can't stand to see others have a happy family reunion. The child is only 3 years old, and you are heartless enough to ignore his life for the so-called face? His voice was loud, and several relatives cast disdainful glances over. My heart was sour and embarrassed. Biting my teeth, I still wanted to persuade him. It's just a fever. How did it become a matter of life and death? Besides, if you're sick, you should see a doctor. Do you think your presence will cure the illness? Vincent, if you insist on leaving today, you will never see me again. He forcefully shook off my hand. That's just as you wish, and there's no need for an engagement. The door slammed shut, and the room fell into a brief silence. The foster mother's laughter was particularly sharp. My son is exceptionally talented. Not just any lowly person can associate with him. Now that it's been said, some people should give up hope. The relatives who were just praising me and Vincent as a perfect match at the dinner table have now changed their expressions. An orphan girl, like a beggar. If it weren't for your old Kim's kindness in taking you in, would you have survived until now? Exactly. Look at your status, and you still dare to dream about our Vincent. It's like a toad wanting to eat swan meat. I pretended not to hear and took out the pen from my pocket. This is Uncle Kim's item. Returning it to you. The foster mother snatched it away. Old Kim was confused when he was sick back then, making a decision with just a broken pen. Since the marriage is to be cancelled, this pen should naturally be returned to its original owner. I said nothing, letting my nails dig into my palm. Vincent, in this lifetime, Our relationship ends here. The phone suddenly rang, and a nearby relative reached out to answer it. I didn't pay attention and turned to walk towards the bedroom. After a whole day of turmoil, I was already very exhausted. A voice suddenly came from behind, raised by an octave. Looking for Anna? Peking University? The room fell into silence once again. I picked up the phone, and on the other end was a clean, crisp male voice. My name is Louise, and I am a professor at your school. Your father was my senior. If you need anything in the future, feel free to contact me. On the day of registration, I will pick you up at the station. Chapter 5. This name sounds very familiar. In my previous life, when I decided to give up on university, it was this person who persistently called, urging me to reconsider. But at that time, my mind was entirely focused on Vincent, and I couldn't listen to anything else. Good. Thank you, Uncle Louise. The person opposite pondered for a moment, seemingly hesitant to speak, and only responded after a while. I didn't think much of it. Being in the same generation as my father, calling him uncle was appropriate. Time passed quickly. The day before leaving, I cleaned my office thoroughly and threw away everything I didn't plan to take. Some colleagues were curious, so I straightforwardly admitted about going to university, causing a stir in the office. It just so happened that Vincent and Veronica were on a business trip that day, and they didn't return until the next day, and I have already arrived in Beijing. It was only when I saw Louise that I realized how ridiculous the word uncle was. The person in front of me was tall and handsome, with long eyebrows and bright eyes, and was around 30 years old. His well-defined hands naturally picked up the small suitcase. Just this little stuff? His voice was clean and clear, yet he carried an undeniable aura. The journey was long, so I thought I'd buy many things after arriving. He nodded and casually placed the suitcase into the car. The dormitory is under renovation, and the environment isn't great. You can stay at my place for now, and luckily, I have all the daily necessities. I glanced at the taut muscles under his shirt, and for some reason, my ears felt slightly warm. How can this be? Just the two of us alone. It's inconvenient for you as well. He looked at me with a rather speechless expression. So young. What are you thinking about? Louise's house is very large, and he placed the luggage in a guest room near the door. You can stay here first. This room has a private bathroom, which will be convenient for you. The kitchen has everything. You can make something to eat yourself. He also took out a stack of meal tickets. If you don't want to do it, go out and buy some. I took the meal ticket, feeling somewhat conflicted. It's been a long time since someone cared for me like this. While packing the suitcase, I inadvertently pulled out a photo, taken on a past birthday when I begged Vincent to take it. He used to be as considerate as Louise, but at some point, we both grew tired of each other. Maybe it was since Veronica appeared, but it doesn't matter anymore. Even if he marries Veronica, it has nothing to do with me. In the days to come, I just want to live well. University coursework is very fulfilling, especially for someone like me who has regained what was lost, naturally cherishing it even more. It's just that a male classmate often secretly passed notes or found excuses to ask me out for a meal, but I always refused. I didn't expect him to be so persistent and follow me again after evening self-study. Do you have to be so aloof? Not even willing to have a meal? His face was full of impatience and arrogance. Don't be ungrateful. My dad is the police station chief. Look at this place. Even if I mess with you, no one will care. I glanced around. The deserted alley was empty, and my heart suddenly hung in suspense. He smiled lewdly, approaching step by step. Be good and listen. Let me have some fun. At worst, I'll give you money. The cotton shirt couldn't withstand the pull and was quickly torn open. I held onto a piece of the shirt tightly, almost crying in panic. Don't mess around. Professor Louise is my uncle. He won't let you get away with this. Stop bragging. How could someone from a small place like you know Professor Louise? As soon as he finished speaking, he was suddenly thrown off. Chapter 6. The alley was dim, but I vaguely recognized it was Louise. Uncle Louise. Unlike the coldness of the day, Louise was brutal and fierce at this moment, grabbing the person's head and smashing it against the wall. The air was filled with a faint smell of blood. As soon as he let go, the person desperately fled away. I couldn't care about the fear of surviving the ordeal. Grabbing his arm tightly with one hand and holding my torn collar with the other. Stop fighting. His father is the police station chief. Be careful of future retaliation. Louise's gaze fell on my chest, then quickly moved away, casually taking off his own shirt. He doesn't dare. You wear this. The oversized shirt carried a faint scent of laundry detergent, and I gradually calmed down. By the way, why are you here? You don't have classes today. He only had a vest on, revealing the lines of his back. He walked ahead, neither fast nor slow, just passing by. Passing by? I looked back at the dim, narrow alley. Would anyone pass by here? When I got back to the doorstep, I saw someone leaning in the shadows nearby. I quickly grabbed Louise's arm. Be careful. The person's figure seemed to freeze, and their voice was also very stiff. Anna. Vincent. After half a month of not seeing him, he seemed to have lost some weight, and the stubble on his chin exuded a sense of listlessness. He looked at Louise for a long time, his gaze lingering on our linked arms, his tone grim. Anna, is this your classmate? I shook my head. He is my teacher, and also an old acquaintance. Vincent let out a cold laugh. I went to the school to find you, and they said you don't live on campus. I thought it was because the dormitory conditions were poor, but I didn't expect you to be living with another man. Teacher? Is such a person worthy of being a teacher? I instinctively retorted. What nonsense are you talking about? Professor Louise is a good person. He let me stay here out of sympathy because I had nowhere else to go. He stepped forward to grab my hand. If you have nowhere to go, come home with me. You are my fiancée. What does it mean to live with another man? Before I could struggle, Louise grabbed his wrist. Vincent, right? I've heard Anna mention you. Ruining the engagement your father arranged for the sake of a widow. You must truly love that widow. Since Anna has fulfilled your wishes, why do you still come to bother? Vincent's face was very dark. What nonsense. Veronica and I are innocent. Anna is my fiancée. Bringing her home is perfectly justified. Louise glanced sideways. Are you? No. He nodded and was about to make a move. I quickly grabbed his arm. You can't hit him. He's my foster father's son, and by all means, he's half a family member. Unexpectedly, Vincent took the opportunity to strike first. Not only did he sneak attack, but he also lost the fight. Louise straightened the only vest left on him. His voice as cold as ever. Turn left when you go out and walk to the end. That's the hospital. Are you going by yourself or should I take you? Vincent, with blood on the corner of his mouth, glared at him resentfully, then turned and left. I turned on the light when I entered the room, and only then did I see the bruises on Louise's arm. Shall I help you apply the medicine? The muscles on his arm were very firm, with many old scars. What do you want to ask? I looked up and met his lowered gaze. I just feel like you don't seem like a university professor. Why? What kind of professor gets into fights every day? He chuckled softly. The corners of his eyes also curved. Don't you remember? I was a bit confused. What? His gaze gradually darkened. Your father and I were military academy classmates. The year he passed away, I visited you. I even held you. Chapter 7. I recalled for a moment, vaguely remembering something. Then why did you change careers? I stayed in the military district for 15 years and just retired this year. He paused, his voice low and almost like a whisper. Wasn't it because you thought I was too harsh? It was as if a bolt of lightning struck my mind, and childhood memories came rushing back. When I was 8 years old, my father passed away, and the family was in chaos. Various relatives came to the house, not only taking over the family property but also wanting to force me to become a child bride. Louise came to the house as a representative to offer condolences. At the age of youthful vigor, he fired 2 shots to calm the situation, but it was too far, and after he left, those people would come back again, so he asked if I wanted to go to Beijing, but I was very afraid of him, holding on to Uncle Kim's hand and kept retreating. Since then, we have never seen each other again. That time you fired the gun without permission. Did you get punished later? He turned his eyes away and responded after a long pause. It's a small matter. A sudden sense of guilt rose in my heart. Is it because of the disciplinary action that you haven't started a family? He looked stunned and blinked his eyes. If that's the case, then you. The phone suddenly rang. Vincent seemed like he was about to die. His voice was very weak. Anna, could you come and see me? Cough, cough. I fear I won't make it. Got it. Hung up the phone and looked at Louise. What were you saying just now? He sighed almost inaudibly. What's wrong with that kid again? He said he's very sick. I should go check on him. Louise spoke with sarcasm. Is he a man or a piece of tofu? That a few hits could take his life? When arriving at the hospital, he saw Vincent craning his neck. Why did you take so long? When you're so close. Is it serious? Should we contact Aunt? He quickly shook his head and pointed to his chest. It's so far. Let's not disturb my mom. Anna, I think I have a fracture. Can you stay with me? It's been so long since we last met. I have something to tell you. I sat on a chair not far away, my voice very calm. What is it? He seemed a bit disappointed. We've known each other for so long. There's no need to let others come between us like this. Come back with me. At worst, I won't associate with Veronica anymore. In stark contrast to his previous indifference, his affectionate demeanor seemed to even move himself. I know you like me. After so many years of feelings, how could you just let go? I was wrong before. Let's get along well from now on, okay? I looked into his eyes for a long time and suddenly burst into laughter. So you knew about the conflict between me and Veronica, but you always turned a blind eye and let her bully me. He was momentarily stunned again. Vincent, do you remember what I said when Veronica called you that day? From that day on, we had no future. His expression completely shattered. Just because of Veronica? Just because I kindly helped her? Can't you be a bit more magnanimous? Even Louise couldn't stand it anymore. You weren't being kind. You were being indiscriminate. Is there such a thing as magnanimity in relationships? If you are magnanimous, then why are you angry when we live together? Vincent lifted the blanket and was about to get out of bed. After much persuasion, I finally brought Louise home. Vincent makes a good point. It's indeed inappropriate for me to live at your place. It's not good for either of our reputations. I should move. Marry me. I suddenly looked up and saw his serious expression. Anna, you asked me before if there's a connection between disciplinary actions and starting a family. These days, what people value most is political identity. I got a disciplinary action at 18, and I can't even pass the first stage of a blind date. You have to take responsibility for this. Chapter 8. I was a bit confused. When it comes down to it, this is ultimately your own spontaneous action. He gave a bitter smile. Yes, that's why for over a decade, I've never asked you to repay the debt. Oh well, a few decades is nothing. One can still get by alone. Let's leave it at that. At worst, I'll die lonely, but on the road to the afterlife, I'll still be a hero. In the next life, I'll find a wife to carry on the family line. I held my forehead. All right. Stop talking. I'll take responsibility. He suddenly smiled as if his face had changed. It's a promise. No backing out. Tomorrow we'll go file the report together. The report for the next day ultimately wasn't completed. When I saw Veronica standing at the school gate, I just felt overwhelmed. She was very agitated, dragging her son-child and rushed over. Anna, where did you hide Director Kim? I walked around her and headed into the school. How could I hide such a big person? If you can't find him, go to the police station. Turning my head, I instructed the security personnel. Uncle, please don't let unrelated people in. We students value safety the most. Suddenly, her desperate shout came from behind. I'm pregnant. It's his. I froze on the spot, finding it all rather ridiculous. The man who was so affectionately apologetic yesterday had already made a bigger mistake long ago. The person who swore never to associate again had already formed even closer ties. Louise patted my shoulder. Do you need me to handle it? No. You go ahead and get busy. I'll make a trip to the hospital. Vincent jumped up from the bed excitedly when he saw Veronica. the child immediately leapt into his arms, exclaiming, "Daddy!" I crossed my arms and leaned against the wall. It seems that during this time, the bond among this family of three has quickly deepened. As soon as Veronica started speaking, tears began to fall. "Why did you leave without a word?" I was so scared. Vincent's face didn't look good. Just as impatient as he used to be with me. "What are you doing here?" She tried to grab his hand, but it was harshly thrown off. "I'm pregnant." Vincent rarely lost control. A mix of shock, panic, and regret. "How is that possible? We only did it once." He suddenly seemed to remember I was there and quickly looked over. "Anna." I was drunk that time, and it never happened again after that. I shrugged my shoulders. "Do as you please. What does it have to do with me?" Vincent stared at me angrily for a long time, gritting his teeth. "You caused a rift between me and my fiancé. What more do you want?" "I will not acknowledge this child. You should leave quickly and stop disturbing us." Veronica's face gradually turned pale. "We truly love each other. You clearly said you cared for me." Vincent shouted in a low voice. "Who is in love with you? I only pitied you because you are a widow. Stop talking nonsense." Veronica looked back at him in disbelief, then at me, and finally couldn't help but cry. "Liar. You are just a liar." "I don't care. I have your child in my belly now. You must marry me." Vincent impatiently pushed her, but she became even more determined. "If you don't agree, I'll go back to the Supply and Marketing Cooperative and let the director decide for me. By then, you can forget about being the deputy director." A trace of panic flashed across Vincent's face. "Don't do anything reckless." "I'm not trying to be reckless, Vincent. As long as you take responsibility for me, we can live a good life. Otherwise, no one will have a good time." While speaking, she glanced at me out of the corner of her eye. "Why are you looking at me? You wanted to find a man, and I kindly brought you here to find one." She snorted coldly. "Isn't it because you drugged him?" Aunt Kim was right. "You're just a little slut." A crisp slapping sound echoed. Chapter 9. I looked at Vincent in surprise. He was gripping Veronica's face. His eyes filled with undisguised hatred. "I'll marry you. But don't let me hear such words again. Crazy. This person is truly crazy. Still pretending to be affectionate at this moment." It wasn't long before the news of their marriage came. Louise Qinghe didn't want me to have any more dealings with those people. But after hesitating for a long time, I still decided to attend the wedding. Last time I left in a hurry, so this time going back, it's a formal farewell to former colleagues and friends. After all, I lived there for 10 years, and I will never return again. I just didn't expect the wedding to turn out to be very unpleasant. The adoptive mother was not an easy person to deal with, and because of Veronica's widow status, she refused to give the bride price. Veronica was a soft knife, not confronting her mother-in-law directly, but making the matter known to everyone. Even the director of the Supply and Marketing Cooperative had a talk with Vincent, advising him that only when the small family is at peace can the larger family be at peace. The foster mother had no choice but to grit her teeth and agree, perhaps feeling unwilling. On the wedding day, the 100 yuan change fee in the red envelope was secretly swapped by her for 1 yuan. How could Veronica possibly suffer such a silent loss? She deliberately opened the red envelope in front of everyone to check. The foster mother's face turned beet red with embarrassment, and she slapped herself, saying she was old and confused. Vincent felt his mother had lost face and blamed Veronica for being immature, unable to back down like he used to, making the situation extremely awkward. The director personally stepped in to mediate for a long time before the argument finally stopped. However, the way everyone looked at Vincent was no longer filled with the respect it once had. During the toast, he drank a lot. At the table with the female guests, he surprisingly held onto my hand and wouldn't let go. "Anna, I really regret it. Would you come back, please? Let's start over." The thick blush on Veronica's face couldn't hide her original paleness, and her long nails were almost digging in. People around desperately tried to pull him away, yet their mouths were full of suppressed laughter. "Anna, you're lucky you didn't marry into this mess. I used to think Director Kim was a good person, but it turns out they're also a muddlehead." This mother-in-law is not easy to deal with either. Thinking of the outcome in my previous life, I feel a sense of calm within. Every path is chosen by oneself. There's no turning back, and no way to regret. When I returned to Beijing, Louise was already waiting at the station. As soon as he saw me, he smiled so widely that his eyes curved. The marriage application has been approved. When shall we register? I recalled the harsh demeanor of my adoptive mother and hesitated a bit. Should we visit uncle and aunt first? What if they don't like me? Louise raised an eyebrow slightly. No, it won't. Oh, so confident in me? Standing in the martyrs' cemetery, I felt a bit disoriented. Sorry, I didn't know. He wrapped his arm around my shoulder, a long-lasting smile on his lips. Dad, Mom, father-in-law, mother-in-law, Anna and I are getting married. The tombstone next door belongs to my parents. When did they move here? When I was filing the marriage application. I thought you wouldn't return to that place again. Cold tears fell down my face. He was a bit flustered. Is it because I didn't inform you? I shook my head, tears falling like broken strings of pearls, carrying grievances from 2 lifetimes. Unending. You don't know. Why weren't you a bit more persistent last time? Do you even know how long we've missed out on? He didn't understand, but he didn't ask either. Just let me lean against his chest.